All right, yeah, thanks, Jeff. So yeah, I'm Henning from Broadcom. I'm one of the co-chairs of the SPDM working group.
And I'm Jeff Hilland. I'm the other co-chair.
Yeah, so we'll be giving an update on what's been going on with SPDM. So yeah, first, just a quick disclaimer. Some of the information in here is pre-release information, so it might change, and it might change substantially before you see it in a final spec. Just a quick reminder of the Alliance Partner Network that SPDM has. This is a growing network, and we get feedback from all these partner organizations. It's actually been a great relationship with a whole lot of them. So just a quick reminder, why do we do platform security? Well, in modern platforms, there are just a long list of growing attack points. And we've hit those in a lot of the other talks already, so I'm not going to dwell on this too much. SPDM's overall goals, again, just kind of reminder information, mostly for folks reviewing this offline. But big goals are attestation and secure communication. And then we've been adding to that goals of doing authentication of users accessing the device, and then moving to making sure we're on the latest crypto standards. So we're here really giving an update on what the SPDM workgroup's been up to in the last year, and what are some of the new things to look for that have been released in the last few months. First on that list, and kind of big headline item, is SPDM 1.4. This adds post-quantum features. This has been a huge topic, right? There seemed like 100 tracks last year about post-quantum. SPDM now has support. This is a release spec. You can go download it today. We added support both for attestation as well as key establishment. So added MLChem for key establishment, and also added MLDSA and SLHDSA for signatures. Along with that, we added some commands for managing what we call banks of slots. So this, adding in post-quantum brought in the need to manage the storage where the slots are, or where the certificates are. So we added a set of commands for that. And that was really about it. Try to keep it really simple and really just address the big problem that was in front of the industry. Just a little bit more about the algorithms that are there. Just to clarify, there is no hybrid support. Let's see, and then we have the storage binding. So this is another one that was put out this year, came out in May. And the storage binding takes all of our existing SPDM commands, both the secure message commands as well as just the traditional attestation commands, and it maps them to all of the storage protocols. So it works for SAS, SATA, and NVMe, and that can be both PCIe and Fabric attached. So again, go download it. Lots to review, and I will hand it over for authorization.
Thank you. So, what we realized is, well, we've got key exchange, we've got a way to do measurement, we've got attestation. That gets you a encrypted channel into whatever device you're trying to use inside the platform or in your storage infrastructure. But you may not actually have the rights to do that. Particularly, we were worried about security, who's allowed to update firmware, who's allowed to update certificates, who's allowed to update the things in the infrastructure, who's allowed to set settings on your device. Reading settings, probably not terribly problematic, but it could be in some circumstances. So what we ended up doing is a spec we call authorization. And when I say spec, it sounds like one spec. It's going to cause us to re-release just about everything, because we've got interdependencies between everything in the infrastructure. So the use case we were trying to go after was two use cases over there on the end. It could either be a user or a process. And when he was saying user earlier, he really meant end user. Outside of the infrastructure, somewhere tunneling through, perhaps Redfish to the BMC, and then have a session that goes all the way from the BMC to the device, so that you can do real-time debugging in live environments or get data or whatever. So All those user sessions is what we call USAP, and when you start reading the auth spec, you'll see this thing called USAP, and that's the end user authorization. There's also the ability to authorize a process, and you'll see that one called SEEP. And really that one's meant for like something that at boot time, maybe you don't have a complex certificate or key management set up in the device. You really want the first entity to get there to claim the device and then set up any kinds of authorization policy for it. And that one's called SEEP, that's in the spec. And really, I mean, we had one very big alliance partner that was earnestly interested in that, and that was CXL. If you understand the mailboxes in CXL, you know why we needed to do an authorization spec for that. But it's also good for other environments inside the infrastructure as well, if you're inside the platform. So, you know, the BMC could claim to be the only one to be able to do firmware update or set any kind of policy in the infrastructure as well. And so when I talk about policies, it really is, boy, that next step is policies. DMTF is doing a policy for all the DMTF specs, everything that's going to be working on SPDM and everything over it inside the infrastructure running an MCTP. It could be the PLDM specs, you know, RDE, can you reset the device, can you do a firmware update, can you grab debug information. We expect to come out with a spec that's got multiple different types of auth policies. And the reason we're trying to put it all in one spec is each auth policy is a data structure. And if you've ever played on I2C, you want to keep those data structures as small as possible. So the idea of doing one auth policy for every little spec ended up not being a very bright thing to do. So we expect others, if you're adopting the authorization spec, to come up with your own policy. There is it's an extensible mechanism. There's a way inside the spec that tells you which, you know, how to create one, how to register it, and all that. You don't have to go through us. We don't necessarily care. There's a thing called SVH, which, you know, has your own standards body or vendor header in it, and you can set up your own policy. And I'm going about as fast as you are. Yeah, we ended up way ahead. So we really need our partner organizations to define their own policies, right? We expect CXL to do it. You know, it would, NVM EMI might be another example of someone who wants to do policies out there. So, but again, you vendors, you can do your own as well. What we haven't started talking about yet is, and we'll spend a little time on the call to action, you know, first of all, I'm sure most of y'all are in this room are aware, post-quantum requirements are rapidly approaching. So if you haven't thought about your post-quantum crypto migration strategy, you know, now would be the time to start. You might be a little late if you're starting just now. Understand the SPDM storage binding and how you use it. Some of the storage environments are fairly complex, and Brett and I are struggling over some of those environments right now. And then engage with the authorization spec. You know, understand how it works. Is it applicable to your environment? Do you care about multiple entities within the BMC or on the other end of the BMC? Like if you're in a multi-tenant environment, you may want enforcement at the device level and don't trust the BMC to be your single point of authorization. The big one is SPDM 1.5. We've been completely engaged in trying to get the authorization spec out. And so the last 6 months, we've done very little else. And so we start figuring out what's in 1.5 next Wednesday. So we've got some ideas of what we think. You know, there's some people that obviously want hybrid in there. We're looking for a standard definition of hybrid that's been ratified that we can use, because we don't want to be the poster child on how not to do it. There's other things, you know, that are being discussed, various things in OCP for sure. And so if you have requirements, you know, we'll keep that period open for a while, but really it's not too soon to start bringing them in. You know, this is the time to do it. Whether it's additional PQZ algorithms or, you know, if you want, I'd really like a nice lightweight way alternative for certificates for lightweight devices. We're looking at those kind of things for SPDM 1.5. Kind of, we're getting to the point where we've got a bunch of, and we'll do that later, some future version kind of stuff where we're just now, you know, 5 years after we've started SPDM, coming up for a breath of air, where, you know, the really important list of things the industry absolutely has to have, we feel fairly secure that most of those are in 1.4 and earlier. But everybody always adds, you know, their next list of things they'd like to see. So,
you know, I'll just add a little color to that. So On a number of the OCP calls, we've been working through topics that OCP would like to submit into the 1.5 spec as well. So that's another place to come and try to work through some of the OCP directed use cases.
It really ends up being handy for us in DMTF because OCP is completely open, so we don't have to worry about somebody doing a submission or using a company and worry about tainted IP or any of those kind of things. Some of our alliance partner organizations, they need board approval to ask us for requirements, so OCP is great to work with from that respect. So with that, we've got a few minutes left. Are there any questions about SPDM and future releases? Anything you'd like to see in spec? Could you go to the mic? It's being recorded.
What's the path to hybrid algorithms for PQC?
Oh boy.
Oh, that's a loaded question.
Is that called 1.5?
Yeah, it'll be 1.5 if we get a standard definition. I know the industry's wanting one, right? We need, how many are going through IETF right now? 3 different definitions. Who's going to win? Do we do them all? Do we do one of them? Do we do none of them? Okay. We're looking for feedback from the industry and obviously our members to answer that question. It's, if you're following those RFCs, it's a race. I don't know which one's which, so.
Okay, thanks.
Sure. If anybody knows the odds, Vegas probably has taken it. So. Any other questions? As always, if you have any feedback on the specs, let us know. There's a feedback portal as well as a forum you can go to and ask questions. You don't have to be a DMTF member to ask a question. We look at that forum at the very beginning of every meeting and answer any questions in it. When you see Auth come out, we're going to re-release 1 or 2 versions of the binding specs and so 275, 276, 277, 274, and then the authorization spec because there's some bits we had to change here and there to make it work. Don't panic. But we are doing an errata release of all the specs while we do it. And there's a revision history in all the specs. So be prepared to see that within about a month. And there's an early version of the authorization spec. We believe it's going to be the final version. It's already published as a work in progress on the DMTF website. All right. No questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.